Yeah.
Okay, hi guys. How are you going? Nigel
Hi
and I
guys.
are here again.
Yeah, but
And
this time we're using Claudio's Zoom. So a big shout out to Claudio. Thank you for that, my friend. The reason being is because if we use mine, we've got the 40-minute limit. Not that we don't think this video is going to go for more than 40 minutes, but who knows? Um, and it's very, very difficult for me to pay for this platform from where I am in China. So thanks to Claudio, he's like 12 hours behind me. So right here now it's 1:30 p.m. So it's 1:30 a.m. for him. So he'll be in the land of Nod. So yeah, that's why it's got his name in the bottom left hand corner of my screen instead of the Devil's Playground. So how are you, Kimmy?
being
How
good,
you been,
thank
girl?
you. I'm being
Cool,
good. Um,
cool.
I'm playing with this idea. It's kind of it's sort of an extension of what you and I and Claudia were discussing last week.
Mm,
But you and I and Claudia last week were discussing the idea um that we were moving to a different or towards a different way of being, a different way of thinking, a different reality, towards a different reality. And
yeah.
I've been processing that. And one of the I don't even know if I'm going to be able to quantify this in words. And Nigel and I have been talking about this leading up to this recording this. So we're just basically bumbling along. But
Mm.
to start with, I want to show you a couple of slides or pictures. So I'll share the screen with you just to introduce what I'm talking about because I'm not really
Mm.
making any sense at all yet. So to start with, this says we don't see things as they are, we see things as we are.
Yeah, yeah, that's quite deep and meaningful. Um, but I think we've come far enough in our respective journeys to be able to understand what that actually means. Now, for instance, I've just put together that I showed you earlier, Kim, a PowerPoint presentation on um, this Halloween thing that happened in South Korea. Now, I'm going to make a video later on, and I'm going to put it on BitChute because I daren't put it on the YouTube channel, and I'm certainly not going to risk doing it during this podcast. But what I've done, and I've done this quite hurriedly this morning, is when you see that podcast, Kim, I'll record it later on today. I'll send you the link. It will actually explain this quote: "We don't see things as they are; we see things as we are." Because it's an absolute mind blow. I promise you, it's a mind blow.
Right.
But it,
So
it will it will totally explain that. Yeah.
so I think that in essence, that's where we're going. We we
Mm.
we as consciousness are traveling down a road which will allow us to perceive that we don't see things as they are. We see
Yeah.
things as we are, and that we
Yeah.
actually perceive that.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
we
I
that
saw I saw a meme the other day or a while ago, and I included it in one of the podcasts that I did with Harry. And it when you read it without any intonation, it doesn't kind of make any sense. But if you add the intonation to it, it says, "I am not what you think I am.
mm,
You are what you think I am."
I know,
Yeah, and
I
and
know,
and that was so powerful,
mm,
but so true. You know,
I know.
yeah, this is a good one. Look at the word magi,
So
magi in imagination and in magical. Yeah,
so I was looking at this with just a drop of imagination. The world can transform into a magical place where adventures begin and anything's possible.
yeah,
So then we were looking at the word imagination. So if we go on the top line, the eye, which is, of
hmm
course, the eye, the thing you're seeing through,
hmm
magi, meaning The magi means the magician, but in plural.
Yeah.
So the magical people. So I, magi, nation. Nation being the collective place that you're living in, with
Yeah.
the other collective people that you're sharing the nation with.
Yeah.
So, all right, this is where I'm going to get a bit weird, because what I'm trying to describe next is that I'm going to say that I live in Australia, but Australia doesn't exist.
That's right. Yeah.
It doesn't
Yeah.
exist other than in my imagination.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
in the belief system that I have been taught to believe that all is material. So I've had an entire life of indoctrination towards believing that I live in a physical country that's physically called Australia.
Mm.
But actually, all of that is of my imagination.
It's all allegorical. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Stop the share a minute, Kim, if you finish with that
all
screen.
right, all right.
Um,
Um, so
because
can I just
yeah, go
carry
on.
on to quantify that for a minute? So
Yeah.
before we started this, one of the things that you and I were talking about is one of my favorite sayings in the world is what's important to you is not important to me. And
Yeah.
what's important to me is not important to you. So a
Yeah.
lot of the time when Nigel sees stuff, he'll see it through the frames of references of numbers and the significant aspect of those numbers.
Mm.
But I might not necessarily share Nigel's viewpoint at arriving at the conclusions that Nigel arrives at. I might arrive at those conclusions through completely different filters of information.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's like if there's two different roads that all lead to the same supermarket, yeah, and you're on one road and I'm on the other road, and we meet at the supermarket. It doesn't matter how we get there, as long as we get there, because
Yeah.
that's where we want to go. Um, I've found during the years that I've been doing this that ladies have a many ladies have an aversion to numbers. They just, oh, I don't do numbers, which is why there are a couple of girls on YouTube that are pretty good with gematria, but for the most part, it's like, oh, I don't do numbers. Um, but when you remember the Matrix, Kim, you remember the
Yep.
Matrix movie,
Yeah.
and you have the screen with the green
Yeah.
binary numbers coming
Yeah.
down. Well, that's a big clue. Um, More and more people are coming to the conclusion that we live in some kind of, call it a video game, call it a simulation, um, call it whatever name you want to give it.
What
Um,
what can I interrupt for a sec? Because when I
yeah.
used to play video games, I used to play like I don't know, like World of Warcraft, or before that,
Hmm.
I played EverQuest. I played video games for years, and the video games they weren't like Xbox or PlayStation games, although this does apply to Xbox and
Mm.
PlayStation games, which is you can be on a train traveling, and
Hmm.
then the train arrives into a different zone. It goes from
Hmm.
this zone to that zone. So you'll
Mm.
get like a loading thing. You'll get like a black screen for a while and it'll say loading.
Mm.
And what it's doing is it's taking you from this compartmentalization of world into the next compartmentalization of the world
Yeah, and
for the
yeah.
purposes so they don't have to hold all of the information together, so it's not like a huge file or something. They break it up so it's manageable.
Yeah, one thing that I struggle to get my head around are these time differences. Now, if you were to get into your car, you're in Brisbane. If you were to get into your car and drive to Perth in West Australia, Perth will be 2 hours behind you, right? So what do you do? Do you wait till you get to Perth and then change your clock, or are you constantly changing your clock slowly, 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 so that by the time you arrive in Perth, you're already on Perth time,
No,
and vice versa coming back.
no, you,
It just doesn't make sense.
well, you do. You change your clock when you get there. I know
Yeah,
that because I
because
used
it's
to. Well, we
convenient.
both traveled so much, so
Yeah, but it's because it's convenient, right?
it's
To do that
confusing.
now.
It's as confusing as
Well, yeah,
anything if you get to like if you fly from say Brisbane to London,
yeah,
because
9
halfway
hours.
there, if you're still on your old time, if you change your clock halfway there, then you're even
Mm.
more confused because you don't know how many
Yeah,
hours you got left.
that's right. That's
Anyway,
right.
but
But as big as China is, or so they say, there are no time zones here. It's the same time no matter where you go, right? Now we don't know how big China is, but a friend of mine who moved from one city to another city had to fly back to the city that he moved from to pick up his car and drive it to where they are now, and it took him 30 hours to drive the car, right? So that gives you an idea. And that was by no means from one extremity to the other. This is just, um, across one part of the country to another part of the country. But 30 hours. So, it's a big place by all accounts. I mean, I recently took a train ride, and on the what they call the Gautier. The Gautier is the fast train, allegedly 300 kilometers an hour, and it took me 9 hours to get from you know from A to B at allegedly 300 kilometers an hour. So there are no time zones here. From here to Perth, which is a bloody long flight, where my daughter lives, there's no time difference.
yeah,
Yet where
it's
you
two
are, you're
hours.
2 hours ahead of me. So the whole time thing just doesn't do it for
I
for me.
read I read a quote a couple of weeks ago, and it said 100 miles is a long way for somebody from England. A
Yeah,
100 years is a long
yeah,
way for somebody from America.
yeah, yeah.
Sorry,
That'll
a
be right.
100 years is a long time
Yeah,
for
yeah.
somebody from
I agree.
America. So
I agree. But getting back to what we were talking about with you and your idea of the pop up world. I mean, a lot of people online, they talk about what shape is this realm. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter, because you know if you were a character, Kim, in a video game, let's just suppose, for purposes of this conversation, if you were a person, a player inside a video game, would you think that everything in that video game was real?
no, I wouldn't think of any of
No.
it was real. But the
Why?
the the other point,
Why? Would it not seem real? Would it not appear to be real to
it would
you inside the game?
it
Yeah.
would look real. And the
Yeah.
other thing is I had this conversation with somebody the other day, and they were like, "Oh, well, I've never played video games because I didn't want to get to Christmas and discover I'd spent my whole year making 100,000 points
Mm. Yeah. Good
and
point.
go, what
Good
did I
point.
achieve
Good
this
point.
year? Wow,
Yeah.
I got
Yeah.
100,000 points."
Yeah. I'm the best in this little group. Yeah. But another thing that people don't talk about, if you look at video games per se, even from right back when they first began with the Pac-Man, it's all every video game just about is about destruction or killing or eating.
I
You know what I
know.
mean?
Mm,
Every one of them.
I know.
I
Okay,
can't. I mean,
I've been playing this word
yeah,
puzzle game, right, in the mornings, right? And these adverts come up all the time for these little games in between playing this word puzzle
yeah,
game. And
yeah,
it's like, and every single game that comes up, it's like shooting something or blowing something up or rifle shot, or the only same variation of that is like looking for something like a Sherlock Holmes thing or
mm,
something. And then
yeah,
even that has gone pretty gross because half of them are like women on toilet seats.
mm,
And it's like spot the difference, and the woman sitting on the toilet seat and you're thinking,
yeah.
really? Is that really how far we've come?
Oh God, yeah, yeah, yeah. It
You
really
know,
is.
it's like
But
gross.
but you were talking about the magi, with the magical and imagination, um, and it's the way that our language has been twisted. And I was chatting with my daughter yesterday, and she said, "Dad, look at this word, universal." And I went, "Yeah, uni, you and I verse all, or versus all. You and I verse all." And I'm like, wow. I mean, I thought I was pretty good at coming up with some of these word
Yeah.
breakdowns, but that one was awesome. But it's how we've been taught to use words, right? It's like, and I've said this before on podcasts, I've lived in China for 8 years. The Chinese word for China is Zhongguo. Zhong means middle, Guo means country. So where does the word China come from? Because it's not in Chinese.
Mm.
Zhongguo means, oh, that means China. Zhongguo, no, it doesn't. Zhong means middle.
Mm.
Guo is country,
Middle
right?
country. Can
There's a
can I
silly old. Let me just finish. There's a silly old question. Right, let me ask you. A plane crashed and every single person died except two. Why?
sat in the back seat?
Oh, look at the question. A plane crashed and every single person died except two. I wonder how many people listening to this got it straight away. Go on, I'll give you 10 seconds.
All right, I give in.
They were married.
No, that's even worse. All right, carry on. What? There was
You
only
don't
two.
get it?
There was only two people on the plane.
No. Every single person died.
Oh, oh, they're all
Yeah.
married, so none of them
The other
died.
two, the other two, the other two, no, the other two were married. So every single person died, and we every single one of them, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Except two, they were married, because you have this misnomer with the word single. What does single mean? You use it in the context that you are a single lady, i.e., you're not married. Yeah. But if there were, if you were out with a group of people and, some of those people were married, when you use the context, every single person in this room wouldn't include the married couples because they ain't single, but you're using the word single in a completely different context,
Context.
right?
Yeah, I missed it.
And this is, I mean, that's just one example of how our language, we languish in our language.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all been designed to screw our heads up. Yeah.
So let me recap for a second. I was going to tell you a funny story, and now I've decided to not tell you it because I
Oh,
wanted.
go
I
on.
do nah, I'm not
Go
going to
on.
tell
Go on. I
it.
like funny
Those are
stories.
really funny. I used to work for the
Um,
airlines, and this guy came in one day and he said to me, I'd like a seat in the back row. And I said, why would you want to sit in the back row of the aircraft? I mean, it fishtails. When you sit in the back, you get thrown about all over the place, all the way through the flight. So why
yeah.
would you want to sit in the back row? And he said, oh, because I've been in two plane crashes, and both times I was in the back row and I survived.
Well,
And I went, really? You want to fly again?
yeah.
Wow, you're brave. All right.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah.
so what I wanted to say was what I I'm describing this concept really badly because I haven't got the words to actually break down what's inside of my head. But
Yeah.
what made me arrive at part of this complex was Claudio last week was emphatically reiterating the idea that we needed to come to terms with non-materialistic values
Yeah.
in order to
Totally agree.
perceive where we needed to perceive to be at where we need to be at in order to transverse this 15th of April Phoenix Rising event.
Yeah.
So what his language was saying was get over the materialistic values. So on a
Mm-hmm.
ground roots level, I would interpret that as materialistic values, meaning, the sort of car I drive or the type of
Yeah.
house that I earn or what sort of clothes I'm wearing or how my hair's cut or what the what my I don't know, what sort of dog I've got or
Mm.
what I'm seen to be to the outside world.
Yeah.
But materialistic values in my mind now, in this last week, have been going a lot further than that. And it could actually mean viewing the world through materialistic belief systems. So
Well,
believing,
I think everything um, we perceive in this realm, we associate materialism with money or cash, whatever you want to call it, um, your house, your car. But at the end of the day, they're just numbers. Now, I'm not relating that back to the simulation theory being all about numbers, but you know, what's your house worth? Well, whatever it's worth, it's just a fucking number. It doesn't mean anything
yeah,
because you need somewhere to live, right? What's your car
yeah,
worth? Doesn't
yeah,
mean anything. You need somewhere to drive.
yeah,
How much money have you got in the bank? Well, you look at your bank. Well, you see a number,
yeah.
right? So everything in this realm is about numbers,
But
whichever
not
way.
not just that, like the perception of all of those things frightens a lot of people. That's a lot of emotional baggage tied into
Oh
all of
yeah,
that stuff,
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah,
looking at my bank account and going, oh my God, no, I've not got enough
yeah,
to shop this week,
yeah.
or I can't afford to pay this bill, and I need to do something drastic. It's all emotional tying to those
Well,
materialistic.
even our physical avatar, our body, is material, right? Um, the clothes we wear,
Yeah.
everything is materialism.
They even
Now,
called
one thing,
material.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
One thing that Claudio talks about, and a lot of people get put off when people talk about this particular topic. But and the topic is, as Claudio would say, it's all about love, right? But he doesn't mean love as in Kim, I love you, Nigel, I love you, let's get married. He doesn't mean that at all. Harry and I did a podcast, well, a long time ago now, on the different kinds or different words that all mean love in Greek, and there's like I think there's 8 different words for love, and the reason is that even though we've never met in what we perceive to be real life, you and I have a relationship because you're my good friend, I'm your good friend. So I love you the same way that you love me, but is a different way to how you love your son or your parents or your dog or your best friend or whatever. Um, people would easily agree, I think, that when you meet someone and you get married and you have a child, you love that child in a completely different kind of love to the way you love your partner, to the way you love your parents. So already you've got mum and dad, husband and child. So just within that small band, you've already got 3 different kinds of love, right? The highest form in Greek is eros, and
Mm,
from that I think we get the word erotic. Now
yeah.
you're not going to have any, that isn't even going to come into the equation when you're talking about your parents or your child, but it will come into the equation when you're talking about your husband or your wife, right? And this is what Claudio tries to get across, that you know we've all had pets at some point in our lives, and there's nothing nicer than when you're just sitting on the couch and your little dog comes and jumps upon your lap and starts licking your hand, and he wants a bit of fuss or whatever. Again, that you're showing that dog a different kind of love, and that dog is showing you the different kind of love that that dog might show for another dog. You know what I mean? and this is what Claudio talks about all the time. It's the letting go of the materialism. Everything
Everything.
everything outside of what we in English know as the word love, which is it's such a loaded
But
word.
my
Um,
point is that letting go of materialism might even be us perceiving that we don't even live in Australia.
well, yeah, I mean, I've said this for a long time. You know, I've been, so they say, I've been in China for 8 years. But is China really China? I mean, I don't think there's any such thing as
A
countries.
boundary, a boundary.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's an old kind of cliche. Once we had empires ruled by emperors, then we had kingdoms ruled by kings, and now we have countries. You can finish that yourself. Um, but very, very true. I mean, I got a good friend from Denmark who's currently living in Vietnam, and he's been saying for years, a lot younger than me, but he's been saying for years, there's no such thing as countries, Nigel. It's just a name. You know,
Okay.
if I want to come visit you, I've got to tell someone I need to fly to Brisbane, and then when I get to Brisbane Airport, I've got to tell someone to bring me to your house, right? So it exists. They exist in one sense, yeah. Because if they didn't, we wouldn't be able to get around or go anywhere. But in reality, in this simulated reality,
Just a label.
um, it's just a
It's just a
label. Yeah,
label. It doesn't
yeah,
mean, and not only that, my point is that once you travel to there, the rest of it's fallen away anyway. It doesn't even
yeah.
exist. It's like a frame in a
That's right.
computer.
Yeah,
It's only your
yeah,
little bit of
yeah,
current reality
yeah.
that
I mean,
actually exists or
here's
needs to
something.
exist.
Here's something for the guys listening to this to consider. I mean, Harry and I have speculated on this. Um, you come home, you park your car in the garage, you go to bed. When you're in bed, is your car in the garage? Is it really there? I mean, you get up in the morning and you go down to the garage, and yes, your car's there. But when you're alone in your bed, when you're sleeping, is anything there? If you're not giving it attention, what is it they say? Energy flows where attention goes, or
Yeah. Yeah.
something like that.
Whatever.
Um,
And I add to that, whatever I give my attention to grows.
yeah, yeah. So I know this is a little bit weird and way out there, but what is real? What is quote unquote reality? I think it's what we perceive it to be, right? You walk out your front door, I walk out my apartment block. We're both looking at completely different things. So your
Exactly.
reality is what you're looking at. My reality is what I'm looking at.
I'm going to
Yeah,
share
and they're completely different.
I'm going to share my screen with you because there's something you brought up earlier. Oh, one participant can share at any given time. So when I gave the screen back to you, when I stopped sharing, you have to give me permission to share again.
Do I? You haven't given it me back. You're the host. You can do anything.
I'm trying to, oh, there you go. I'm the host. I didn't.
Yeah, you are the host.
Okay,
Yeah.
there you go. So you brought this up earlier. What does it mean to
Yeah.
be in the world, but not of
Yeah.
the world? How can
Yeah.
I live like Jesus wants me to?
Right. Well, let me upset a few. I don't know if you got many people that watch your channel that are what you might call on the or what me and Harry call on the Jesus Jews. If we accept, just for the purposes of this conversation, that we live in a simulation, some kind of video game, then the Jesus character is just a part of the video game, right?
Yeah.
Rather than being a real person as such. A lot of people believe that the Jesus character existed, yet there's nothing written historically. You know, once you step away from the Bible, there's nothing written historically about the
Mm.
physical Jesus. And
Mm.
again, and we said this on our podcast, if you look at the Spanish name Juan, Jose, are spelt with a J. So if you pronounce the Jesus character the same way as Jose and Juan, you get Jesus. And we did a whole podcast on Jesus means he's us.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the character, the biblical character, I mean, I'm not being disrespectful in any way, shape, or form, because I've since learned my time in China that Confucius never existed, Buddha never existed. They're just characters, right? That have been written into the
into the
script.
script.
But that doesn't mean that I'm not going to say what they said, because they didn't say anything. But it doesn't mean that the words that have been attributed to those characters are any less powerful or any less meaningful. I mean, Confucius said every journey starts with the first step. Oh yeah, well we can say that's true, right?
Uh,
But the Jesus character, according to the Bible, said, "I am in this world, but I am not of this world." Now, what did he mean by that?
yeah.
What do you think he means by that?
You asking me?
Yeah.
Well, I suppose I've had instances of my life where I perceived myself not to be in this world. Like I've I've sort of perceived myself as like a puppet of myself,
Well,
where I've
you
had.
often.
Have you ever had? I'll give you an example of this. If you've ever had a car accident and everything happens in slow motion,
Yeah.
and you're actually sort of observing yourself
Yeah.
because it's so slow that you're
Yeah.
actually observing what you next. I once had a car accident. Uh, I was on a highway. It was in Perth actually. It's on a highway, and it was late. It was late in the afternoon. It was dark, and it was absolutely teeming it down in the rain with rain. And there was a car. I was on a freeway, and the freeway had come to a standstill, and there was a car approaching me in the rear view mirror at a rate of knots. And I'm looking at this rear view mirror going, he's not slowing down. He's not slowing down. He's not slowing down. And then I thought, oh shit, I'm in stationary. And I thought this really quickly. What's the best thing for me to do to get out of this? And I thought, well, if I lock my car steering wheel into the right, so turn it that way, when the car hits, it won't impact head on.
Yeah.
And the side of the car that'll get the main body of the impact is not the side that I'm on.
Right.
So what I did was I put my steering wheel full to the lock. And then rather than clenching onto the steering wheel and holding it tight, I did this whole like deep breathing into my center of my being, completely relaxed, just completely relaxed into.
That couldn't have been easy. That could not have been easy when you're sitting there bracing for impact. No.
All right, so just completely relaxed. And the next thing you know is a taxi in front of me, kerbang, smash straight into the car in front, right?
Oh wow.
The guy behind me, all of his car was stove in. The taxi guy's boot was stove in. I opened the door, stepped out of the car, completely unharmed.
Wow.
And it was
Wow.
pouring it down with rain in there going, oh my God, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine.
So
Uh,
did your car get hit?
oh, bloody hell, yeah, it was written up front and back.
Oh, okay. Oh wow. Oh
But
wow. Just while you talking, just scroll down a little bit. Who rules the world? I want to see what that says. A bit small, okay.
when the word world is used in the New Testament, it's a translation of the Greek word cosmos.
Mm-hmm.
No, we're not getting all astrological on you. Cosmos most often refers to the planet Earth and its human inhabitants who live their lives with their backs turned towards God. Satan is prince of the cosmos. Even Jesus called him that in John 12:31 and also John 16:11. The Apostle John mentions that the world is under the control of the evil one in 1 John
Well,
5:19.
I think from memory it's 2 Corinthians 4:4. And people can look this up. I haven't got it anything prepared. 2 Corinthians 4:4, and it actually states the God of this world, and it's a lowercase g. Now you would never write God with a lowercase g,
No.
unless you were not referring to, or you were referring to some other entity. But it clearly, in all translations, it's a lowercase g,
Mm.
which I find very interesting. Yeah.
All right.
Now, where it says there, don't start worrying, you do have a choice. I'm going to do a podcast. It probably won't go up on YouTube. It'll probably go up on BitChute, about free will, because I have personally experienced, and Kim, you're fully aware of the of what happened. Um, I now know that our free will is totally limited. Harry and I, again, we did a podcast talking about, if you have a very big field, and right in the middle of that field there's a tree, and you tie a horse to that tree, but the lead or the rope is long enough that the horse can get to the extremities of that field, but can't get out of the field. That horse is going to think he's got free will because he can go anywhere within the boundaries of that field. But if he wants to get out of the field, he hasn't got the free will in order to do it, right? And I had this experience was so fucking incredible, that maybe you and I we can talk about it and record it later on, and I'll put it up on BitChute, because it needs to be said. I was going to wait until I'm no longer here, but I think it's too important. I think there's too much going on, Kim, out there with what we're seeing every day. It doesn't matter which country we're in.
I've
Um,
actually got experiences as well where I have chosen something, but my body has done something else.
wow, wow,
Like and I'm mentally
wow,
screaming, like, get
wow.
me out of here, get me out of
Yeah,
here. And my
yeah,
body's walked towards it and towards it and towards it. And I'm
yeah.
going like, no, no, no.
But the craziest thing, and I was talking to Claudio about this till 1 o'clock in the morning last night. Um, the craziest thing is that while I was going through this experience, I kept getting these signs. And when I say signs, I mean things that, what was that old song? Things that make you go, ooh, right? I'm like,
Uh,
what?
uh,
What? And it wasn't until I got back here that I was able to put everything together and see that I was being told the only way that we are communicated with, in my opinion, if we, outside of when we're asleep, is numerically, right? We have to understand what the numbers mean. And it wasn't until I got back here that I looked over this experience. I was telling Harry, I was telling you, and all of a sudden, everything clicked into place.
mm,
And it was like I was being told, no,
mm,
it ain't time. It ain't,
mm,
go back home,
mm.
go back. And I'm like, no, 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 no.
All right.
But I didn't realize that was the message at the time. So very interesting, guys. Um,
I
it
don't
would probably go on.
I don't want to go too heavily into that because I don't want to make this video too long for our
No,
viewers.
no, no. I'm not going to go into it. What we'll do is we'll record a completely separate video, but it's going to take me probably half an hour to explain all this information in ways that people can
Mm,
actually get their head around it. Because fucking hell, it took me a long it took me a long time to get my head around it.
mm,
But once you see it, this is another one of those crazy things, Kim. Once you see it, you can't unsee it.
I know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and if my information helps even one person,
Mm, mm,
right, who
mm.
thinks they're going crazy because something crazy happened to them, then it's going to be worth our time talking about it and doing a recording. But it won't go on YouTube. It'll only go on BitChute.
Okay. All right. So, is there anything else that you'd like to say about this concept that we're not in the materialistic world before we leave?
The way I see it, again, Claudio will talk about us all being one. Max Egan always finishes his videos with "in Lakesh."
Yeah.
In Lakesh basically means I am another you, or you
Yeah.
are another me.
Yeah.
And
That's a
this
Wimmy.
all, yeah, this all ties back to what when Claudio talks about the dreaded word love, you know.
Mm.
And relationships, it doesn't matter who you have it or what you're having a relationship with, whether it's your pet cat, dog, or whatever, they're all important. Relationships are the most important because relationships reflect the love that that Claudio talks about. But for a lot of the time, that word has been abused, misused, taken out of context.
Can I
Doesn't mean what we think it means.
can
Okay.
I just say like real relation, real relation, real?
Yeah.
It's got the word real in it.
Yeah.
Real,
Yeah.
and real can be a movie reel. Like
Yeah.
real can be, you could do a movie reel on a movie,
Yeah.
so you could have a relation, as in
Yeah.
it's not really, it's just part of the script, it's just part of the
Yeah.
actors in the reel. Right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna cut
Mm.
you off.
Okay. Well, you don't. You
Um,
just stop recording.
all
Just
right.
finish
Well, thanks
recording,
for
and we'll
listening
carry on talking.
anyway. Love your comments. If you want to make any, if you've got any ideas about this concept is just forming in my world. But basically what I'm trying to say is I'm trying to perceive the world without material, which is
Yeah.
really,
Which
really
is not
difficult.
easy. It's
Oh,
not easy at all. No.
oh,
No.
okay.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being with us.
Bye.
Anything else? We'll put links below.
Okay.
We'll catch you soon.
Bye.
Bye.